Welcome to the SVG-TV News for Monday, March 23rd. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. The issues of crime perpetrated against women and girls were highlighted today during a panel discussion hosted by the opposition New Democratic Party at its headquarters in Kingstown. Sharon Garraway has more on the event in this report.
Mr. Eustace, when you get into power, make sure there's a home for women to go to. Make sure there's a place of refuge that women can turn to. That they don't have to run from one place to the other and sleep on people's couch with their animal. Make sure I am going to hold you to account that you make sure there's a building here that women can go to for refuge.
With tears streaming down her face and going only by the name Kate, a survivor of abuse spoke of her childhood experience and as a woman said more needs to be done to protect women and girls in this country. At the consultation described as a conversation with women, the NDP's opposition leader, Arnhem Eustace, said he is deeply disturbed by the number of abused women and girls in this country. He stressed that enough is not being done to protect them. Outlining statistics from the United Nations on how this country ranked as it relates to rape, sexual assault, and sexual crimes, the opposition leader highlighted in one of his presentations that from police records of rape in 126 countries per 100,000 capita, this country averaged fourth from 2004 to 2011. In his 10-point strategy to tackle the issue of abuse of women and girls, Eustace included the retraining of police officers and the strengthening of policies to protect women and girls.
The other tables doing other things. Very rank, very high. This small, tiny microeconomy. This small, tiny microeconomy called St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is what we get in ratings for. For domestic and sexual violence, that's what we get in rated for, highly.
Giving an overview of the proposed domestic violence bill, lawyer Samantha Robinson also reiterated the need to enhance the policies that protect women and girls in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
They issue a protection order. They issue an occupation order. They issue a tenancy order. If a breach occurs, the penalty is not because of going back, but is a penalty because you would not comply with the court orders. And what we're simply saying, if a man hits you and hits you twice and three times, send him to prison and make it a criminal offense.
That's right. Women's activist Jeannie Oliver also clamored for greater urgency in laws to defend women and girls. She noted that in 2001, the New Democratic Party drafted the domestic violence bill, and she is appalled that it has taken until 2015 to get this document pushed to the next level.
They have renamed the department, has been named the Division of Gender Affairs. In 2001, we left an amended draft policy which was supposed to have gone to Parliament for acceptance endorsement. Since then, it's still a policy. Without a policy, you can't have programs. You must have a policy, and Mr. Eustace will deal with his policy for NDP later on.
Sharon Garraway, The Evening News.
Meanwhile, comparing the work done by the Women's Affairs Department when she worked in the civil service to the Gender Affairs Department of today, activist Jeannie Oliver said more can be done for the women in SVG.
They continue with that program. They have more staff at the division, at the gender division. But quantity don't mean quality. Say that again. Quantity don't mean, say it loud and clear for me. Quantity don't a program called the Juvenile Justice Reform Program that will come up. And I am positive that Mr. Eustace is going to monitor that program.
All candidates are said to be in place to contest the upcoming general elections for the ruling Unity Labour Party. Following a series of candidate selections over the weekend, it was indicated to the members of the media today that all matters in relation to candidacy in all constituencies have been resolved. General Secretary of the ULP, Julian Francis, explains that he was mandated by the Central Executive to bring Mariaqua and West Kingstown in order in relation to the candidate selection, and that was done.
I've spoken to Michelle Fife in West Kingstown, and she has consented to withdraw her interest in running for West Kingstown. That leaves the name of Deborah Charles Arun for consideration. In Mariaqua, I've had the commitment from Watson Kane and Kirk Silva that they will withdraw their interest in candidacy. That leaves Jimmy Prince as the man for Mariaqua. And those two matters will be settled at the expedient level.
And in Central Leeward today saw all the contenders of the ruling Labour Party for that constituency coming together in a show of unity at the party's headquarters in Kingstown. Chairman of the ULP, Edwin Snag, says the media conference was summoned to clear the air on a number of myths that have been circulating following the candidate selection process, which occurred on March 15th in the Central Leeward constituency. Snag says it is important that the public understand that there is total cohesion between the forces and parties involved in the selection process. Current representative of Central Leeward, Maxwell Charles, refuted claims of his inability to effectively serve as representative for the constituency and thanked all those who supported him over the past 4 years. Charles stressed that he is and will continue to be a loyal supporter and member of the Unity Labour Party.
I made my contribution, brought the seat in 2010. And again, I worked hard. I haven't changed. I'm the same Maxwell Charles. And people who were born around the mid-20th century like me, I think we all have a level head. So my maturity and my loyalty to the ULP and its programs has been brought to bear here right now, in the past, and will be in the future. Being a continued supporter and one of the leaders in the ULP, I want us to go forward as a united front so that we would not allow those who may want to roll back the fortunes of this great nation. They wouldn't have a chance.
And challenger Dunstan Johnson in his remarks says he has been a staunch supporter of the ULP since 1998 and thanked all those who supported and believed in him. Johnson says it was Sir Louis Straker, that is, who he admired, who gave him the chance to be a possible candidate to represent the ULP.
I would also like to thank the party for the recognition that they're giving to me as a potential candidate in the whole process. And that's why I'm here today. I would also like to thank my very ardent supporters in Barley, Leyu, and Bokomen for the held fast with me, they held steady, and I also want to thank them for the opportunity, for the belief that they instilled in me, belief and confidence, I should also add. I will say that the democratic process conducted by the party up to the point of the 15th was conducted with due diligence, and the process on the very day was also conducted democratically.
Meanwhile, the party's candidate for Central Leeward for the constituency in the upcoming election says he had no intentions of contesting the 2015 poll, but had very little say in the matter. Sir Louis Straker notes he is simply obeying the calling of his people and party.
Something that is hardly reported is that when the Prime Minister came to get me at Barrowley from under the 10th Crusade, Maxwell was there and Dunstan was there. So I had the two candidates and the leader of the party coming there to fetch me, to go back to Petersall to be the candidate. And when I got back there, the Prime Minister made a speech and the motion was made by Maxwell, seconded by Dunstan. I had very little choice but to obey the call of my party and my constituency. This was not a situation where the Prime Minister just picked me and said, you're going to be the candidate. There was a vote. As you would imagine, when a motion is made and seconded, a vote was made and the people selected me as the candidate. Now, I've had a very long and very close relationship with both men.
Agricultural consultant Fillmore Isaac says he supports a charcoal industry in SVG, but some key elements need to be considered. Speaking on the Hitstock program on Sunday, Isaac says that the charcoal industry is one that is beginning to take off in this country, with large exports to other countries in the region. He, however, says there needs to be proper dialogue between all parties involved before the removal of trees from the forest reserves to build such an industry, since the trees play a vital role in the ecosystem.
We're talking St. Vincent and Grenadines has become a barbecue and meat roasting nation. Those of us who know our history would know that barbecue is not new to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Remember the Buccaneers? The Caribs, you were told, used to roast, or which we call barbecue now, fish was prepared over the fire. So it's not a new thing for us. It's part of our cultural heritage. And if we're going to be using, who makes the decision? For me, it must be inclusive of all the stakeholders, including the people who monitor on the nation's behalf.
Isaac suggests that a replacement program be implemented, adding that though it is important to build this country's economy, the environment is just as important.
I'm all for the utilization of the indigenous material. There can accompany, or part of the sustainable use must be a replanting program. And Mr. Providence, who speak a bit more, I believe, on that. Trees that are fast growing and that could be utilized for coals. So here we are this morning. St. Vincent and Grenadines is a small place. Not much forest. Maybe less than 30% of our land space now under forest. But at the same time, given the economic circumstances, we cannot afford to deny some people what will be.
Director of the Forestry Department, Fitzgerald Providence, says though they are pleased with the big exports of charcoal, they are working on keeping close tabs on where the charcoal comes from and how to prevent the misuse of the forest reserve.
But also we have an export market to the northern islands, the Leeward Islands and the British Virgin Islands. There's a big export market of charcoal moving in those ends. In terms of under our legislation, we can control the charcoal, the cutting of trees on prong lands or forest reserve areas. When it comes to private land and other development, we can advise, but our control is very limited in terms of that. So we have that production of coal in that end. We in the Forestry Department, through our Forest Management and Inventory Unit, will be looking at we'll be developing on that study in terms of looking at where the charcoal is coming from, what is being used. If it's coming from the forest, we tend to want to control that. But there's some areas of forest that, because of risk to lives and also because of limitations in the resources, we can't get to there, and we know maybe there's some charcoal coming out of there.
Meanwhile, environmentalist Marlon Mills says the cutting down of trees in the forest is not the only issue that can pose a threat to the water resources and forests here in SVG. She says when discussing this topic of deforestation, there is a bigger picture that persons should pay closer attention to.
Because these are some of the life issues that can have serious impacts on the quality of life for us. I see this topic not just in the context as a source, as the forest as a source of fuel wood, but I see it in the context of the bigger problem of deforestation, of which there are other contributing factors such as agriculture, expansion of the agricultural industry and marijuana cultivation, urbanization and the building of roads and stuff like that, natural disasters, which has a serious impact on the forest reserve, and to a lesser degree ecotourism. Therefore, instead of dealing with the fuel wood issue in isolation, we also need to be looking at some of the other causes of deforestation and how it is impacting or likely to impact on the lives and livelihoods and the quality of life for Vincentians now and in the future.
Manhood is said to be becoming an identity crisis here. Speaking at the opening of the 2015 Project Men's 2020 second annual National Men's Conference on the topic, The Man and His God, Reverend Verrill Blake explains that God is not looking for magnificent specimens of humanity and argues that it is becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between the two sexes.
No, not is becoming, but has already become a disparity. It has become hard and becoming increasingly more difficult to determine who is man from woman, who is male from female. What has infiltrated our societies is a reversal of roles as biblically defined. In this melee of confusion and chaos, righteous manhood is extremely crucial.
Meanwhile, project coordinator of Project Men's 2020, Conroy Huggins, says plans are being put in place for an event in April where they're hoping to have 1,000 men in prayer at Heritage Square.
And Project Men 2020 has endorsed this vision by our brother Jonathan Marquette of the Triumph Covenant Ministries. And we are asking for churches to come on board. Life Bidders President have given their commitment, and they're making the appeal to the nation to give your support, because if just a few men stand up for righteousness, change will come. One of the things that we have recognized, that policy changes and policy adjustments does not necessarily create the change, and it cannot create the change of the human heart. It could only come through God.
Simon Francois, a resident of Rosebank, is now before the court facing a charge of grievous bodily harm. He is accused of using a cutlass and inflicting wounds to the face of Nigel Beljon, a Grenadian national, during a domestic dispute at Rosebank on February 18th. Francois was escorted before Chief Magistrate Reshan Brown Matthias this morning and was not allowed to plead to the charge as it was indictable. He was allowed bail in the sum of $5,000 with one surety and was ordered to report to the Chateaubriand police station on Mondays and Thursdays between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. and was also placed on a curfew between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. and to surrender all travel documents to the court. A date of April 23rd has been set for the preliminary inquiry.